Welcome back to Hard Hat Chat, everyone. I'm Justin Smith, CEO of Contractor Plus, and joining me, as always, is Gerritt Bake, CEO of BuildPro. Today, we're talking about something that might ruffle a few feathers, and yes, it might sound like heresy to contractors who still swear by word of mouth alone. Why Google reviews matter more than referrals in 2026. This conversation almost feels disrespectful to have out loud if you've been in this industry a long time. Because for decades, referrals weren't just a lead source, they were a badge of honor. Referrals meant you did something right. It meant people trusted you enough to put their own reputation on the line by recommending you. And for a long time, that system worked beautifully, quietly, organically, honestly.
And that's why the shift feels personal to a lot of contractors, because it's not just a marketing change. It feels like the rules of trust got rewritten without asking permission. Contractors didn't suddenly become less trustworthy. Customers didn't suddenly become colder. The environment changed, and the environment decides behavior, whether we like it or not.
The uncomfortable truth is this: referrals didn't stop working. They stopped finishing the job. They stopped being the final checkpoint. They stopped being the deciding factor. They became step one instead of step five. And when contractors still treat referrals like the finish line, they don't realize the customer already moved on to the next step without telling them.
You can actually see it happen in real time. Someone hears your name from a friend. They nod. They say, "Oh, yeah, I've heard of him." And while the conversation is still happening, their brain has already decided what comes next. They're going to look you up. Not later, immediately. And what they find in that moment determines the tone of the entire relationship before the first call even happens.
That moment is everything. That's where trust either accelerates or collapses. And it's not dramatic, it's quiet. It happens while someone is sitting on the couch, scrolling, half distracted, comparing you against 3 other companies they've never met. You don't even know you're being judged yet.
This is the part contractors struggle with emotionally. They feel like trust should be earned in conversation, in eye contact, in showing up. But the modern customer builds trust before contact. They don't want to find out if you're reliable. They want confirmation that other people already did and survived the experience.
And here's where Google reviews win psychologically. They remove loneliness from the decision. Hiring a contractor feels isolating. You're making a big call with big money and big consequences. Reviews say you're not alone. Other people did this. Here's how it went. That reassurance is powerful.
Referrals
Don't do that at scale. A referral
is one voice. Reviews are a crowd, and humans trust crowds when they're anxious.
Anxiety is the key word. Homeowners don't read reviews when they're calm. They read them when something is broken, leaking, outdated, or failing. They're already stressed. They don't want hero stories. They want predictability. They want to know what usually happens, not the best case scenario.
That's why people read the bad reviews first. They're not hoping you're terrible. They're checking how bad really gets. They want to see if the worst case outcome is survivable. That's risk assessment, not negativity.
And here's where contractors misunderstand silence. They think no reviews is neutral. It's not. No reviews feels like uncertainty. Uncertainty feels dangerous. In a digital environment, absence creates suspicion. People assume something is missing even when nothing is wrong.
It's like walking past a restaurant with no customers inside. The food might be amazing, but your brain asks questions before your stomach does.
Exactly. And recency matters more than volume. A contractor with 30 reviews from 5 years ago feels less trustworthy than a contractor with 10 reviews from the last 3 months. Customers aren't looking for legacy. They're looking for current proof of life.
That's another big shift. Reputation used to be cumulative. Now it's perishable. You don't just earn it, you refresh it. And that feels exhausting to people who thought they already paid their dues.
But the market doesn't care about dues. It cares about signals. Google reviews are signals that say this company is active. People are choosing them right now. That's all the algorithm and the customer need to know to keep moving.
And let's talk about the algorithm without getting technical, because Google isn't emotional. It doesn't reward loyalty, it rewards consistency, it rewards engagement, it rewards evidence. Contractors who don't actively participate in that system aren't being punished, they're just invisible.
And invisibility feels unfair when you're good at what you do. But fairness isn't how discovery works anymore. Visibility.
Another layer here is how reviews changed pricing conversations. A contractor with strong reviews doesn't need to explain themselves as much. The trust is preloaded. The call starts warmer. The homeowner isn't interviewing, they're confirming. That changes everything.
A referred customer without review validation shops harder. They ask more questions. They push price sooner. They hedge. A reviewed contractor deals with confidence instead of skepticism.
That confidence protects margins, and this is where contractors really start to feel the difference. Reviews don't just bring leads, they reduce friction, they shorten sales cycles, they reduce negotiation, they reduce the need to justify price.
And let's be honest, most contractors don't lose jobs because of price. They lose jobs because of doubt. Reviews eliminate doubt faster than any sales pitch ever could.
Referrals tell people you're good. Reviews show people how you behave. And behavior is what customers actually care about when things go sideways, because things always go sideways at some point.
This is another shift. Customers don't expect perfection anymore. They expect response. They want to know how you handle problems, not whether you avoid them. Reviews show that. Referrals rarely do.
And then there's the generational layer. Younger homeowners grew up reviewing everything: apps, food, teachers, ride drivers, hotels. They don't see reviews as rude or optional, they see them as normal. Not having reviews feels abnormal.
To them, hiring without reviews feels reckless, like buying something expensive without reading the label.
So when contractors say, my work speaks for itself, customers think, then why isn't anyone talking about it online?
That's the uncomfortable translation.
This part lands here. Google reviews matter more than referrals in 2026 because trust moved from private conversations to public proof, not because referrals failed, but because the decision making process evolved. Referrals open curiosity, reviews close confidence. And in next part, we're going to break down how this shift impacts sales behavior, customer psychology, and why contractors with strong reviews operate from a position of power instead of defense.
Stay tuned. We'll be right back after a short break. And hey, if you're a contractor looking to scale your business without adding more chaos, check out Contractor Plus. It's the only app you'll ever need to run your business from start to finish. CRM, estimates, invoices, payments, plus powerful integrations like QuickBooks Online, Zapier, Authorize.net, ABC Supply, and more. Go further, win more, and work smarter with Contractor Plus. We're back, and now we're stepping into the part of this conversation that actually changes outcomes for contractors. How Google reviews reshape buyer behavior in ways most contractors never see happening. Because by the time the phone rings, the decision is already half made. The customer isn't neutral anymore. They're either leaning toward you or leaning away, and reviews are usually the reason.
This is where contractors misunderstand what shopping around really means. They think shopping around happens after the first call. In reality, shopping around happens before the first call. The customer has already compared you against competitors silently. They've already filtered options based on ratings, volume, tone, and recency. When they finally call, they're not asking, who are you? They're asking, are you the one I think you are?
And that shift alone changes the entire sales dynamic. A contractor with weak or inconsistent reviews starts every conversation in defense mode. They have to explain credibility, justify experience, reassure reliability. A contractor with strong reviews starts in confirmation mode. The customer already believes they're just validating logistics.
That's the hidden power of reviews. They preload trust. Trust used to be built during the estimate. Now it's built before the estimate. That shortens conversations, reduces skepticism, and removes the need for heavy persuasion.
And here's something contractors rarely connect. Reviews don't just influence whether a customer calls you, they influence how the customer behaves when they call. Confident customers don't negotiate aggressively. Uncertain customers do. Confident customers ask availability questions. Uncertain customers ask price questions.
Exactly. A customer who trusts you asks, when can you start? A customer who doubts you asks, can you do it cheaper? Reviews change the tone of the entire interaction.
And let's talk about negotiation power, because this is where the financial impact becomes real. Contractors with strong review profiles discount less, not because they're arrogant, but because they don't need to compete on price. The customer isn't choosing between options, they're choosing between you and waiting.
Meanwhile, contractors without strong reviews feel pressure to sweeten the deal. They offer discounts, rush timelines, overpromise scope, or say yes to things they shouldn't, all to compensate for missing trust signal.
That's dangerous because it erodes margins quietly. Contractors don't realize they're paying a trust tax in the form of discounts and stress. Reviews eliminate that tax.
Another layer is time. Customers who trust you waste less of your time. They don't ask 20 follow-up questions. They don't disappear mid-conversation. They don't collect your estimate just to compare it against 6 others. Reviews filter serious buyers from browsers. This is why contractors with strong reviews
Often say, we're busier than ever, but somehow dealing with fewer headaches. It's not luck, it's filtering. Reviews attract customers who want you, not just a quote. And then there's the issue of ghosting, something contractors complain constantly. Homeowners who vanish after getting an estimate. Strong reviews
reduce ghosting because the customer is already committed mentally. Weak reviews increase ghosting because the customer is still undecided.
And another subtle shift reviews create is expectation alignment. Reviews show patterns, how long jobs take, how communication feels, what issues come up. Customers come in informed. That reduces misunderstandings later.
Referrals don't do that. A referral rarely includes disclaimers. Reviews do.
Reviews talk about delays, surprises, changes, and how the company handled them. That prepares the customer emotionally, which leads to fewer conflicts. Fewer conflicts mean fewer bad reviews. Fewer bad reviews mean stronger reputation. It's a loop.
And here's where contractors need to pay attention. Customers don't expect perfection anymore. They expect response. A company with a few imperfect reviews but strong responses feels safer than a company with nothing visible.
Silence is risk. Transparency is comfort.
Let's also talk about how Google reviews influence internal culture, because they do. Teams behave differently when they know customers will publicly reflect on the experience. Communication improves, accountability increases. Sloppy habits get exposed faster.
Reviews turn private behavior into public record. That changes standards without management needing to yell. The culture tightens naturally.
This is why some contractors secretly hate reviews. They feel watched. But that discomfort is usually growth trying to happen.
And it's not just customers watching. Competitors watch too. Contractors with strong reviews become market leaders, even if they're smaller. Visibility beats size online.
Referrals grow slowly. Reviews scale fast. That's another uncomfortable truth. One great referral leads to one call. One great review influences hundreds. And Google doesn't rank businesses based on how good they are. It ranks them based on how engaged customers are. Reviews signal relevance, which means contractors who ignore reviews don't just lose customers, they lose search position. Less visibility leads to fewer opportunities. It compounds quietly.
This part lands here. Google reviews don't just matter for marketing, they matter for pricing power, time efficiency, customer quality, team behavior, and business stability. They change the entire operating environment.
Referrals still matter, but reviews determine leverage.
In next part, we're going to close this out by talking about the future, how contractors should think about reviews strategically, how review culture becomes a competitive moat, and why ignoring this shift in 2026 puts even great contractors at risk. Short break, then the final segment. We're back. And now this is the part where the conversation stops being theoretical and starts being uncomfortable, because we're talking about the future. Not next year, not 5 years out. We're talking about right now and what it quietly turns into if contractors keep treating Google reviews like an optional side task instead of a core business asset.
And here's the reality most contractors don't want to face. Reviews are no longer feedback, they're infrastructure. They're as important as trucks, tools, labor, and scheduling. You can run a business without caring about reviews for a while, just like you can run a business without good systems for a while. But eventually, the cracks show, and they show publicly.
What's changed is that reputation is no longer owned by the business. It's co-owned by the customer. Contractors don't control the narrative anymore. They influence it. That's a massive shift in power. And anytime power shifts, the people who adapt early benefit the most.
Think about it this way. 20 years ago, if someone had a bad experience, it lived in a conversation. It might travel through a neighborhood slowly. Today, it lives permanently in search results. That permanence raises the stakes of every interaction, whether contractors like it or not.
And the opposite is true too. Great experiences don't fade quietly anymore. They compound. One great review becomes 10 impressions, then 50, then hundreds. A single customer's experience outlives the job itself. That didn't exist before.
This is where review culture becomes the moat. Contractors who actively build review culture aren't just getting leads, they're building insulation around their business. New competitors can enter the market tomorrow, but they can't instantly replicate years of documented trust.
That's the long game. Reviews age like wine when handled correctly. Even a 2-year-old review still carries weight if the pattern continues. Consistency creates authority. Authority creates confidence. Confidence attracts better customers.
And better customers change everything. They respect timelines more. They trust pricing more. They communicate better. They refer better. Strong reviews don't just bring more work, they bring better work.
This is something contractors underestimate. Reviews shape the type of customer you attract. Weak or inconsistent reviews attract bargain hunters and skeptics. Strong reviews attract buyers who already believe you're worth it.
And that belief reduces friction everywhere. Less arguing, less explaining, less discounting, less emotional exhaustion. Contractors don't burn out from work, they burn out from friction. Reviews reduce friction.
Now, let's talk about the internal impact, because this part gets ignored. When a business knows customers will publicly reflect the experience, behavior changes. Communication improves. Sloppiness decreases. Ownership increases. Teams self-correct faster because visibility creates accountability.
Reviews quietly force professionalism without needing constant supervision. That's powerful. It turns customer feedback into a management tool, not just a marketing metric.
And here's the part that separates leaders from survivors: responding to reviews. Not defensively, not emotionally, but thoughtfully. Customers don't expect you to be perfect. They expect you to be present.
A company's review responses tell future customers more than the reviews themselves. Tone matters. Accountability matters. Empathy matters. People read how you handle criticism to decide how you'll handle them.
That's why reviews aren't just about stars. They're about storytelling. The story customers tell about you becomes the brand, whether you participate or not.
And the contractors who say, I don't have time to deal with reviews, don't realize they're already dealing with them, just passively instead of strategically.
The future contractor doesn't ask, how do I get more reviews? They ask, how do I design an experience people want to talk about? That mindset shift is everything.
Because chasing reviews feels desperate. Building review-worthy experiences feels intentional. Customers sense the difference.
And let's close the loop on referrals because they still matter. Referrals didn't die, they evolved. A referral without reviews is incomplete. A referral with reviews is unstoppable.
The future isn't referrals versus reviews. It's referrals amplified by reviews. Private trust validated by public proof.
And that's why Google reviews matter more than referrals in 2026. Not because referrals lost value, but because reviews became the language of trust at scale.
Contractors who adapt won't feel exposed, they'll feel protected. Contractors who ignore it won't fail overnight, they'll fade quietly, slowly, confused about why the phone doesn't ring like it used to.
The market doesn't punish good contractors. It rewards visible ones.
And visibility today isn't about shouting louder. It's about being chosen, talked about, and confirmed by the people you've already served.
This has been Hard Hat Chat. Build great work, build great experiences, and let your customers build the reputation the future depends on.
We'll see you in the next episode.